Now for round two, a question from the New Jersey audience, Richard Sarkeesian.
Hi, I'm from the 5th District in New Jersey. When I saw the Jones resolution, and I looked at the LPAC website, I think it was Thursday, and very conveniently the email addresses. Of course, I've corresponded with the senators and Scott Garrett, who's the representative in the 5th District now, on several occasions previously. So I immediately, when it was so convenient, I immediately dashed off some emails to them, and one to Garrett in particular said, to paraphrase it, I copied verbatim the resolution from Jones, and I said, do you support this? Will you sign on to this? And I also said, and better than that, will you file articles of impeachment against Obama? And now I've corresponded. I've been to Garrett's office a number of times, and I've corresponded with him. I've written detailed letters about the Glass-Steagall. I really wanted him to get behind it, and I've just found that in the past their responses have been, to put it mildly, lame. I mean, basically, obfuscation, going around in circles. I don't get any direct answers. So oddly enough, I was really surprised that in about 24 hours I got an answer back from Garrett. I received an email. I won't read the whole thing. It's about 2 paragraphs. He talks about being the founder and chairman of the Congressional Constitution Caucus, which Diane seems to knows a lot about apparently. I don't know very much about that, but talking about the Founding Fathers' vision for American democracy as enshrined in our Constitution, the separation of powers among the 3 branches of the federal government as prescribed by the Constitution is an essential safeguard to secure individual liberty while ensuring no branch becomes too powerful. So then he refers to the Constitution, in Article 1 and Section 8. And then he refers to regulations implemented by the executive branch, often circumventing the role of Congress. And then he refers to Congressman Jeff Davis from Kentucky introducing H.R. 10, called the Regulations from the Executive in Need of Scrutiny Act, REINS, the REINS Act, of which Garrett is an original co-sponsor. The legislation would provide additional congressional oversight of the rulemaking ability of the federal agencies and would require congressional approval of major rules of the executive branch before they may take effect. H.R. 10 passed the House with Scott Garrett's support on December 7th, 2011 by a vote of 241 to 184. It now awaits consideration by the Senate. And then he states that my correspondence is important to him and he appreciates my views. I didn't get an answer to the question. I mean, it's nice to tell me stuff about H.R. 10, which I haven't had time, but I've got to go look up, and maybe somebody here could tell me what that's all about. I have not read it. I have to do some homework on that. Okay, so what is my question? I'm just observing that. Getting I would use the term getting sandbagged. I mean, not directly answering my questions. Do you have any advice on tactics that can be used to facilitate the best approach on this issue and other issues?
Well, first of all, I think we have to go from the top. I don't think you can pick isolated issues and try to find out which one is going to work the best, because you're up against something which is, I understand, and the majority of the members of Congress are pretty gutless, as you may have assumed from experience, and therefore they'll double talk you all the way around, try to keep you happy, but keep you confused, and that's generally what. So therefore, in dealing with an issue like this, you've got to go to the top of the list on leading issues. That's why I say I restricted entirely. What I propose that our people do is to concentrate on 2 issues: Glass-Steagall immediately, without reform, without change from Franklin Roosevelt's specifications, and then go back to national banking. Those two issues are unifying issues rather than wedge issues. And sometimes a single issue, particular, is a good issue in itself, but it can be turned into a wedge issue. And that's what we want to avoid. In other words, we've got to win. We're not going to win by nudging our way in by subterfuge. We're going to win only by crushing the enemy. And the way you crush the enemy is by uniting the greatest number of American people around a sense of a common issue, so that they share their commitment to that issue. And it's only those kinds of issues that can win under these kinds of present circumstances. We've got the Congress is generally gutless. They were not always gutless. Some were always gutless. But there were many, even a majority, which could unify. That was back when we had an earlier president, Bill Clinton, who was not the most firm person on all issues, but he represented a unity of forces. And some of those people are still around and doing the same thing today. What we need is a unifying issue. I've defined the two unifying issues are because they are crucial. Glass-Steagall is crucial. What does Glass-Steagall do? Glass-Steagall says to Wall Street, go to hell. We're not paying you a nickel. And they're going to come back screaming, what about our money? What about our money? This was our money. Yes, buddy, but it was gambling money. And you were gambling. The United States government is not responsible for paying your gambling debts. If you lose money in a gambling debt, the U.S. government has no obligation to pay you anything, morally or otherwise. We may give help and relief to people who are penniless because they gambled. We'll give it to them because they're human, not because they have anything coming to them otherwise. We help people who are sick and people who are brain sick enough to have invested in Wall Street too. We will protect them as persons, but we will not bail them out. Now, therefore, that's the deal. You guys swindled, you bankrupted us, you stole our business, you stole our things, you pulled off inflation, you took away our health care, you did all these things. And you want us to bail you out because you got this money coming from gambling debts? Buddy, you got no case. You're back on the relief force. We're not going to let you starve. We're not going to let you die. But we're not going to bail out your damn gambling debts. And therefore, Glass-Steagall. Now, Glass-Steagall means that you take all the banking. You take the commercial banking with the regular banking and things which are analogous to commercial banking. And that's what you save. That's what you protect. Now, the problem is that the banks, the commercial banks, have lost so much money through the swindles run by Wall Street that they've been swindled. Therefore, we're going to have to help them come back into form. How do we do that? Glass-Steagall. So we protect the commercial banks and analogous banks of the Constitution. Now then, what else do you do? You launch a system of credit because you don't have any loan money available. Great projects of employment are necessary. Healthcare and so forth. All these things are now necessary. Education, we're being destroyed in our educational system. Our healthcare system has been destroyed under this character, Obama. The stealing is immense. So these are issues which unite a great mass of the American people in a common set of issues. Therefore, unite the American people around those issues which unite them by their nature. And on that basis, you can get through measures of policy, of principle, which are based on those considerations. You've got to define the most common interest among the people which corresponds to their essential interest. Once you do that, you break the back of the opposition. Then you can clean up the rest of the mess. And as I say, we've got great projects before us. Glass-Steagall is a great project, and it's easily put into effect because there's a complete precedent for it. And things like the WAPA, I mean, they're a tremendous project. If you look at the conditions in the central states of the United States and on the West Coast, much of it, you look at the condition in Mexico, you look at the opportunities in Canada, And you say, this is obvious. Here you have a 30-year program of development, of the most magnificent development that ever undertaken by mankind in terms of economy. A project which dovetails with projects in Canada, dovetails with projects in Russia, Europe, and elsewhere, and also across our borders to the south. The greatest project ever conceived by mankind is now, why not? Let's invest in that. Let's take people who are, we've got youth out there. Do you realize that youth between 16 and 25 are generally useless? They have no skill in production. Most of you know that. You live among them. You know they don't even want to work. They want money, but they don't want to work. They have no skills. We've got to take that population and we've got to put it through a reconstruction process because we're getting older. I'm particularly getting older. I'm approaching 90. And I'm not going to be around that much longer. But we have to ensure that there's a generation coming up behind in that age group which is going to be functional. Otherwise, what's our life worth if we haven't saved that? So I say stick to the form of the issue, which is the most uniting of the people. And you will find that any program which unites our people around this kind of reform will generate the additional legislation you need, as in the case of the Franklin Roosevelt election. Franklin Roosevelt's election in saving the United States then, back in the 1930s, early 1930s, inspired all the other measures which led to our ability to win World War II, by the way. All the other measures which saved this nation. My experience, my judgment historically, is pick the things which are needed, which are most needed, and which benefit the greatest number of people. And once you get that change and shift in approach, you will find that the other measures which are also needed will be called to attention by an audience in the Congress and among the people, which recognizes the merit of the additional measure. So rather than trying to get a particular measure through as such, pick a measure which is big, which attracts the greatest number of people, whose urgency is obvious. Put that through and you will find that it will be easier to get through the other things that have to be done.
Okay, so we have another question here from Texas. Before we get to that question, though, I just wanted to say that I think that the clear direction to be taken is that if you really want to get the attention of the Congress members, then don't write them a letter. Go to their office, go to their town hall meetings, and take charge. Because what I can tell you is from here, just a few months ago, when we went to Sheila Jackson Lee's office after a meeting we had here with about 15 or 20 people, she could not evade the issue. She had to listen to what we said, and we made it clear that she had to sign on to Glass-Steagall, and we were demanding she sign on to Glass-Steagall. And when 15 people got up to the microphone demanding that, believe me, she was actually paying attention. So forget about the letters. Go and take charge.